My name is Ellen Brooks, and I never thought I'd be told to get out of my own kitchen. Yet that's exactly what happened one Saturday afternoon when my daughter-in-law's voice sliced through the air like a knife. "Get out of my kitchen," Sophia snapped, her eyes sharp, her cheeks flushed with the heat from the stove. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. This was my kitchen, the one I'd painted sunflower yellow 20 years ago, the one where I'd cooked Sunday dinners and packed school lunches, where every dent on the counter held a memory. I was holding a grocery bag full of tomatoes, still cool from the market, and suddenly I didn't know where to set them down. She stood there like she belonged there more than I did, her hands moving fast, spices lined up, onions sizzling, knives flashing. My son Noah leaned against the doorway, grinning at her like this was normal, like it was cute. I wanted to ask, "Excuse me?" But the words stuck somewhere between disbelief and hurt. I'd invited them over for dinner, but somehow the evening had turned into her show. My chest tightened. I could smell garlic and resentment thick in the air. Sophia glanced at me again, this time softer but still firm. "I've got it, Ellen. You can relax." Relax. That word stung. I've been running this kitchen for decades. Relaxing wasn't what I did here. This space had always been mine, the one part of the house that still felt alive since my husband passed, and now I was being dismissed from it like an unwanted guest. Noah laughed, clapping his hands once. "You heard the boss! Mom! Out of the kitchen!" His words were playful, but they burned worse than Sophia's. I felt something inside me shift, a mix of anger and disbelief. I took a step back, my fingers tightening around the grocery bag. For the first time, I wondered if my son's new wife was trying to replace me, not just in his life, but in this room, in the small kingdom of warmth and memory I'd built for my family. And I wasn't sure which hurt more, the insult or the realization that maybe, just maybe, she already had. I stood there for a long second, still holding the grocery bag, tomatoes pressing cool against my fingers. The air in the kitchen felt thick, filled with steam, the smell of sautéed onions, and something else, tension so heavy I could almost taste it. "I'll just put these away," I said finally, forcing a smile I didn't feel. My voice came out tight. I moved toward the counter, the one I'd wiped and polished 1,000 times, but Sophia slid a cutting board into my path without looking up. "I already planned the whole menu," she said briskly. "Everything's under control." Under control. My house, my kitchen, my groceries, and somehow I was the one who needed to stay out of the way. Noah chuckled, still leaning in the doorway like this was just another Saturday. "She's a pro now, Mom. You should see the way she handles a recipe." His easy tone hit me harder than I expected. I didn't raise my son to mock people, least of all his own mother. I bit back what I wanted to say. Sophia was new to the family, after all. I told myself she didn't mean it that way. But when she reached over to take the tomatoes right out of my hand, her fingers brushing mine like she was correcting a mistake, I felt something sharp twist in my chest. "I was going to use those," I murmured. "For the sauce," she said, not looking up. "But I've got my own version. Trust me, you'll love it." Trust me. That was what my late husband used to say whenever he'd tinker with the old car or fix a leaky faucet. It was the language of confidence, of ownership. Hearing it now, in my kitchen, made me feel like I'd lost something sacred. I stepped back and watched her work. She was quick, efficient, every move practiced. Her dark ponytail swung as she stirred the sauce, humming under her breath. It should have been comforting, seeing another woman take joy in cooking for my son. But instead, I felt invisible, like a ghost in my own house. I wiped my palms on a dish towel, pretending to check the oven temperature even though I wasn't cooking anything. Sophia glanced over, noticed, and said lightly, "Don't worry, Ellen. I've got it from here." That word again. Relax. Don't worry. All the little ways to tell someone they weren't needed anymore. Noah walked past me, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Smells amazing," he said into her hair. Then to me, "We'll make dinner for you tonight. Just sit back for once. Mom?" I should have appreciated the thought. I should have smiled and said thank you. But the words that came out were quieter, sharper. I didn't ask anyone to replace me. Noah froze for a second. Sophia turned, eyes narrowing, not angry, but startled. "Replace you? Ellen, that's not what this is." I took a breath, realizing how brittle I sounded. "This kitchen has always been mine," I said softly. "I know every squeaky hinge, every pan's favorite burner. I just thought—" Sophia sighed, setting down her spoon. "I know, but I wanted to do something nice. My parents are coming next week, and I wanted to practice hosting." Her voice trembled slightly, and for the first time, I caught something other than confidence, nervousness, maybe even fear. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Another part, the bigger one, couldn't let go of the sting. "That's fine," I said, stepping back toward the doorway. "Just don't forget whose kitchen it is." The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Noah cleared his throat. Okay, everyone take a breath." He gave me a pleading look, the same one he'd used as a teenager when I caught him sneaking in after curfew. Let's not make this a thing. But it already was a thing. Sophia turned back to the stove, stirring harder than necessary. Noah busied himself stacking plates, but his movements were stiff. I stood there, the outsider, the problem no one wanted to name. Finally, I walked toward the door. "Call me when dinner's ready," I said quietly. Noah started to protest, but I didn't wait to hear it. I stepped out onto the back porch, where the evening sun stretched long across the yard. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and garlic from the open window. Inside, I could still hear them moving around, clinking dishes, laughing a little too loud to sound natural. I sank into the old wicker chair by the door and stared at the tomato juice still staining my fingertips. Maybe it was silly, getting territorial over a room, but it wasn't just a kitchen. It was the last piece of the life I'd built with my husband, the place where love and comfort used to simmer side by side. And as I listened to Sophia's laughter echo through my house, I couldn't help wondering if I'd already lost more than just a room. By the time I walked back inside, the air had changed. The smell of tomato sauce had deepened, rich and sharp, clinging to the walls. I found Sophia bent over the stove, tasting with the confidence of a woman who knew exactly what she wanted the evening to look like. Noah was at the counter, slicing bread, humming along to the old radio I kept near the window. For a moment, it looked almost domestic, almost peaceful, except I felt like a stranger watching from the wrong side of the glass. I cleared my throat. "Need any help?" Sophia didn't turn around. "No, thank you." That should have been the end of it. I should have gone back outside and stayed quiet. But something in me refused to vanish that easily. I walked toward the stand mixer sitting proudly on the counter, my old one, a gift from my husband 30 years ago, now gleaming with Sophia's new attachments clipped on. "It still runs a little rough," I said softly, reaching for the speed dial. "The motor sticks if you—" Before I could finish, Sophia moved closer. "I know. I read the manual." I froze, hand hovering over the switch. The words hit me square in the chest, sharp, efficient, dismissive. I'd been reduced to an instruction manual. I turned the dial anyway. The mixer coughed, then whirred to life with a shudder. A puff of flour lifted from the bowl like a white cloud, swirling into the sunlight. Sophia gasped and reached for the plug. I laughed once under my breath, half apology, half defiance, but the mixer suddenly roared, the beater spinning out of control. A gust of air sent flour flying across the counter, dusting the cabinets, the floor, even Biscuit, who barked once and wagged his tail as if he'd been waiting for chaos all along. "Oh no!" Sophia lunged for the power switch, but the cord slipped from her grasp. I tried to steady the bowl, but my elbow hit the blender on the other counter. It toppled, still half full of tomato sauce, and exploded in a scarlet geyser. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The sauce splattered across the walls, the smell of garlic and basil mixing with scorched metal. A single streak of red ran down Sophia's apron. Biscuit darted forward, gleefully licking at the floor. Noah's voice broke the silence. "Well," he said faintly, "dinner's lively." Sophia's eyes widened, her hands shaking. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." But I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all hit me at once. The mixer, the sauce, the dog licking marinara like it was a delicacy. And I started to laugh. Not a polite chuckle, but a real helpless laugh that rolled out of me until tears blurred my eyes. Sophia blinked, uncertain, then gave a shaky laugh of her own. Noah joined in, rubbing a streak of sauce from his cheek. "Guess that's what we get for putting two cooks in one kitchen," he said. The laughter broke something open. The tension that had wrapped itself around us all afternoon began to melt away, replaced by the ridiculousness of the mess we'd made. Sophia sighed and grabbed a roll of paper towels. "Well, at least it's flavorful chaos." I nodded, still catching my breath. "Could be worse. The last time this mixer acted up, I lost half a cake batter and nearly scared the cat into next week." She snorted, a real laugh this time. "I can believe that." We cleaned in silence for a few minutes, the rhythmic sound of wiping and scrubbing grounding us again. I noticed how careful she was with my things, rinsing the wooden spoon instead of tossing it in the dishwasher, folding the towel neatly on the counter. For the first time that day, she seemed human to me, not a threat, not an intruder, just a young woman trying to make things right. When the last of the flour had been wiped and the sauce scraped off the cabinets, I leaned against the counter. "You know," I said quietly, "that sauce actually smells wonderful." Sophia glanced up, cheeks flushed. "It's my mother's recipe. She used to make it every Sunday when I was little. I guess I wanted to, I don't know, bring a bit of that here." Something inside me softened. I thought about the Sundays I'd spent in this kitchen with my husband, about how every meal had been a way to keep him close even after he was gone. Maybe that was what she was trying to do too, build something of her own. The radio crackled, shifting to an old Sinatra tune. Without thinking, I reached for a dish towel and began drying the dishes she'd washed. She didn't stop me. Noah looked at us both and smiled carefully. "Truce?" Sophia nodded, a shy smile tugging at her lips. "Truce." I felt the words settle into the room like warmth after a storm. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was the beginning of something lighter, something that felt a little like peace. As Sophia turned back to the stove, stirring what remained of the sauce, I caught my reflection in the window, flour on my hair, a streak of red across my cheek, and a faint smile I hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe this kitchen had room for both of us after all. The kitchen smelled like everything familiar again, tomato and garlic simmering low, bread toasting in the oven, laughter trailing between the clinks of dishes. Yet something new hovered in the air too, a careful respect, as if we were all testing a language we hadn't spoken before. Sophia stirred the sauce gently, slower this time. "I'm really sorry about earlier." she said, her voice small but sincere. I didn't mean to take over. I just wanted to make dinner perfect for Noah's parents next week. Mine never had a real home to host in, so I guess I went a little overboard. I folded a dish towel over my arm, listening. The honesty in her tone made it impossible to stay angry. I saw her not as the woman who'd invaded my kitchen, but as someone still trying to earn her place. My husband and I used to fight about this mixer, I said, glancing toward the counter where it now sat innocently quiet. He wanted to replace it every Christmas, but I never could. He bought it for me our first year here. It made our first cake, our first mess, our first Christmas cookies. Sophia smiled softly. Sounds like it's seen some history. It has, I said. This whole house has. For a moment, silence sat comfortably between us. The sunlight had shifted, falling across the countertops in long stripes. I felt the house breathe again, like it had been holding its breath all afternoon. Noah walked in with a grocery bag and 2 bottles of wine. Peace offering, he said, raising them like trophies. And napkins, lots of them. Sophia laughed, wiping her hands on her apron. You're late to the cleanup. Hey, I had to make it up somehow. He set the bag down and turned to me. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how that must have sounded earlier. I was just joking. But I cut him off with a small wave. You don't have to explain. Just remember this kitchen isn't a battlefield. He grinned sheepishly. Yes, ma'am. We moved around each other carefully at first, but soon it became natural. Sophia sliced basil while I grated cheese. Noah arranged the plates like it was a science project. We fell into rhythm, the kind of unspoken teamwork that only happens when everyone is trying to make amends without saying the words out loud. Sophia held out a spoon of sauce toward me. Taste test? I hesitated only a second before leaning forward. The sauce was rich and layered, the sweetness of tomato balanced with something unexpected, a bit of honey. That's good, I admitted. Really good. What's your secret? She smiled, eyes twinkling. My mom always said a little honey goes a long way. It softens the acidity. I laughed quietly. My mother used to say the same thing, though she was talking about people, not pasta. Sophia laughed too, and for the first time, it didn't feel forced. Noah poured 3 glasses of wine and raised his own. To chaos, to sauce, and to Mom not disowning me. I rolled my eyes, but clinked my glass anyway. You're safe, for now. He grinned and went to set the table. I watched him move around the dining room, humming under his breath like he used to as a boy, and something eased inside me. I realized I wasn't losing him. He'd just built a new circle, and maybe I was still part of it. Sophia wiped her hands and opened a drawer, pulling out my old wooden spoon. I found this while cleaning, she said, holding it up. The handle was worn smooth from years of stirring. That spoon's older than both of you combined, I said with a laugh. My husband carved it for me the year Noah was born. He said every good meal needed a little love mixed in. She looked at it for a long moment, then placed it in my hand. Would you teach me your sauce recipe sometime? The one you used to make for Noah? The request caught me off guard. For the first time that day, I felt the weight of pride and nostalgia twist together in my chest. I nodded slowly. Of course. But tonight, I'll just watch you finish this one. Sophia smiled, relief flickering across her face. Deal. As the sauce bubbled and thickened, I leaned on the counter, tracing the grain of the wood beneath my fingertips. The house felt alive again. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Lived in, loved. When Noah called from the dining room, asking if we were ready, Sophia turned to me. Do you think it's good enough? I met her eyes. If it's made with care, I said, it's already good enough. She exhaled a laugh, a little shaky, and grabbed the pot handles with steady hands. Together, we carried the sauce to the table. It wasn't just dinner anymore. It was a bridge built from burnt edges, flour clouds, and the quiet forgiveness of two women learning how to share one kitchen, one family, one love. And for the first time since my husband died, I didn't feel alone in this house. Dinner was imperfect in every way, and that was what made it beautiful. The lasagna's edges were a little crisp, the salad too heavy on vinegar, and the garlic bread leaned dangerously close to burnt. Yet as we sat down together, laughter replaced the silence that had haunted the walls earlier. Sophia served the first slice, her hands still trembling slightly, and Noah poured the wine with a flourish like he was hosting a grand event instead of a family dinner. Biscuit sat loyally by my chair, tail sweeping the floor, hoping for crumbs. The first bite of sauce surprised me. It tasted like home, yet different, softer somehow, sweeter. The honey lingered on the tongue, quiet but unmistakable. I found myself smiling. "This is wonderful," I said. Sophia looked up quickly, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "Really?" "Really," I said, nodding. "Your mother would be proud." A small flush rose in her cheeks. "Thank you, Ellen. That means a lot." For a while, we just ate, the sound of forks against plates, the faint hum of the old radio. Everything felt calm, steady. I realized then that peace didn't have to look like control. Sometimes it was simply choosing to sit at the same table, even after the storm. Halfway through dinner, Noah excused himself and returned with a small bouquet. Bright wildflowers from the backyard, awkwardly arranged in a mason jar. He set it in the middle of the table. "For the new kitchen queens," he said with a grin. Sophia rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "You mean queen singular?" "No," he said, looking at me. "I think we've got two now." The warmth that filled my chest then wasn't pride. It was something gentler, something closer to gratitude. For the first time since my husband's passing, I felt like the house wasn't stuck in yesterday. It was breathing again, alive with the sound of new voices and old stories mixing together. After dinner, we cleaned side by side. No one asked who should do what. We just moved naturally, passing dishes, sharing towels, falling into rhythm. When the last plate was put away, Sophia lingered near the counter, wiping a small spot that didn't need cleaning. "I meant what I said earlier," she began quietly, "about learning your sauce recipe." I smiled, drying my hands. "And I meant what I said. You'll learn it soon, but there's a rule. You have to stir with this." I opened the drawer and pulled out the old wooden spoon, the one my husband had carved. I held it out to her. Sophia's eyes softened. "Ellen, I can't take that." "You're not taking it," I said. "You're borrowing it, just until your next sauce night." She took it gently, her fingers brushing mine. "Deal." Noah walked in just then, holding a plate of leftover lasagna. "You two done bonding over carbs?" "Almost," I said. "Your wife just became the official guardian of the family spoon." He grinned. "That's a big honor." "It is," I said. "And she's earned it." Sophia laughed, the tension finally gone. "Guess I'll have to live up to it." When they left later that night, the kitchen was spotless again, but it didn't feel empty anymore. I stood by the sink, watching their car lights fade down the driveway, and I caught my reflection in the window, tired maybe, but peaceful. I looked around the room that had witnessed laughter, chaos, and reconciliation all in one afternoon. For the first time, I didn't think of it as my kitchen. It was our kitchen now. and as the radio played one last Sinatra tune, I whispered to the quiet house, "Honey really does go a long way." The words felt true in a way I hadn't known they could.